2021, who is to be what the board that has to be formed. This board is one that is going to be advising uh, the government on minimum wages and various other aspects, especially the central government. It also has the fixation in respect of working journalist and sales promotion, because those two acts are also getting uh, modified or rather merged with the new codes. Therefore, those also will be taken care of by this new board that they propose to form. The Tamil Nadu government has also circulated draft rules. The rules are for the Tamil Nadu Shops and Establishments Act, where they want to now reduce certain forms and merge into one common form as well. So they're going to try to reduce the number of forms that is required to be maintained and the registers to be maintained by employers. And another crucial change that they're bringing about is to maintain it online. So it is not even that you need, if there is a form U, it is not that you need to have the form U in the same format. So even if you have it on a soft copy, as far as it is substantially the same, and whatever needs to be captured is captured, even if it is not in the same form, it is fine. So these draft rules are being circulated. We need to wait for the rules to be finalized and published. Um, so the word actually they've used is without changing the integrity and serial number, you can maintain the forms and registers. Similar changes have been proposed under the Tamil Nadu BD and cigar rules as well. I won't dwell much into it. It's basically they're trying to reduce the number of forms registers. Um, Government of Karnataka has introduced a central inspection system. Uh, it's just not restricted to the labor department. It also brings in the pollution department and the legal metrology. So it is a good change of where you will have a centralized system of inspection, and any inspection would be generated from the central inspection system. So there is going to be a transparency in any kind of inspection that happens not only by the labor department, but also the pollution control and legal metrology departments. We hope that something similar comes about in other states as well. The government of Karnataka has also published the Code on Wages draft rules. No substantial change from the central government rules that has been circulated. But however, they've asked for views within 30 days. Um, Under the budget, central government budget, finance budget for the year 21-22, there was a proposal to restrict the interest on PF to 2.5 lakhs. Ultimately, the government has put it at 5 lakhs cap. So up to 5 lakhs interest is tax-free under the Provident Fund Act for the financial year 21-22. One significant change that comes about with the OSH code under our caption of know your codes is that they're restricting the maximum hours to 8 hours. So we used to have 9-hour factories with 4 days working for 45 hours, but still there's no question of payment of overtime. But now with this 9-hour cap per day, question of 5-day working factories would have a challenge where they may need to pay overtime wages. Of course, there's also another proposal where government says they're looking at 4-day working as well. So we need to wait and see what they propose here, because this is going to increase the number of working days for employees or burden the employers with the overtime wages. Um, any compensation that becomes payable under the code on wages, there's going to be an arrears component also that can be levied under this by the authority, as well as the same thing with the social security codes. Also, it's already there in most enactments to payment of interest, but here it is more generic, where authorities were given the power to levy interest. Recently, it came about that the government of India informed the parliament that around 6,500 deaths have occurred in various work sites over the last 5 years. So it's a substantial number. We all need to see what we could do for the safety of our workplace. And The EPFO has said that the new employees of around 13.6 lakh people have been enrolled in January 21, shows maybe that we are on a rebound from the pandemic times. In UK, there was a Supreme Court ruling which said that Uber drivers would also be workers. Following this, of course, Uber didn't have a choice, but now they have treating their workforce also as workers. The drivers become are going to be treated as workers by them. Their company has come out with a policy, but of course they say it's only the riding time that will take and not the waiting time. That's something that we need to see how it is and how this is going to impact. Uh, Maybe in India, where your gig and platform workers, of course, they're extending it to code on social security, but then code on wages, minimum wages doesn't talk about this kind of gig and platform workers. Of the four codes, only the social security alone talks about gig and platform workers. So will what will happen with the gig and platform workers in other places is something that we need to see in respect of the other codes. So therefore this judgment and the action of Uber would need to be seen how it is going to impact in our country as well. A pharma major who has been all companies extend group mediclaim policy. They are now gone to an extent of where they're extending it to LGBTQ community as well as to live-in partners. So this is something very radical and different and new. The extension of Mediclaim to just usually what is termed as family, but the definition of family getting wider by this pharma company. So I thought it would be of interest to our listeners on that aspect. This is the judgment in by the Madras High Court where the employee misbehaved with the superior and in fact assaulted him, and therefore the club in fact terminated his services or dismissed his services immediately. The labor court on some flimsy ground directed reinstatement of the employee with continuous service without back wages, but the Madras High Court reversed it, saying that when the uh, conduct or the charge leveled against the employee was serious of assaulting a superior, the labor court ought not to have reinstated him and reversed the judgment of the labor court and upheld. Why this is significant is this is a case where without an inquiry, the employee was dismissed and the charges were held to be proved by the labor court, and the dismissal has been upheld by the high court. This is a case where the employer tried to wriggle away from the ESA, PF damages and interest. Of course, interest levy becomes compulsory. So that's what the High Court held. But damages is concerned, there's no element of mens rea that was there, and therefore the following the judgment of the Supreme Court, they struck down the aspect of mens rea, but 7Q has to be paid. But this is one more case on the 7Q interest which was being challenged, where on various grounds that the hospital said that we don't need to cover our employees because we are offering better services. But the High Court turned down their request. High Court held that even the hospital would need to pay the interest and damages component. We have your complaints chart for this next month on what needs to be done. One thought that I would like to leave all of you with is that there has been news items stating that the codes are not going to make it on 1st April. It could be effective from a later date. That's again, we don't know how authenticated that news is, but given there is a lull, none of the rules have come, that's more likely to happen. So if the codes are not coming on 1st April, why should I restructure my salary to be compliant with the codes is the thought that many of them have. But I think most of you will also agree with me that the codes will get notified by the end of this year, sometime this year at least. And being so, if you were to hold back the restructuring now and later on if when the courts come, they're going to make an impact. You're going to take a beating and you may not be able to restructure then. Or even if you restructure, then it could still have a financial impact. So normally companies try to restructure salary in April, and many companies have not done it last year, and so they want to do it this year. Because of the COVID, many didn't do it and they want to do it this year. My suggestion is that when you do that, try to be compliant with the code. It will help you in the long run. It will be too short-sighted to see that the code has not been notified. Therefore, we will do it when the code comes in. Do as a part of your compliance and your legal compliance that you ensure that at least from 1st April when you do it, you restructure the salary to be on terms with the code. Uh, that's what we have for you this month. We hope to see you on 24th April 2021 at 4 p.m. again. Thank you.